Hello and welcome. Ukraine is confirming now that a Patriot battery was actually hit with the airstrike a few days ago, but we have more details about the actual damage, at least what Ukraine claims. Also, we have intensive fighting in Bakhmut. It seems like the last few days of the city of Bakhmut in Ukrainian hands have started, while around Bakhmut fighting is continuing. Some rumors about Ukrainian advances that are pretty substantial, but nothing in earnest, while there is the confirmation of additional Russian forces having arrived. Also, Ukraine gets significant new weapon deliveries in the next few months and weeks, as well as Prigozhin basically admitting something or close to be admitting to treason. This and more in the Situation Report. In the attack on Kiev, 6 Kinzhal, 10 S-400 and Iskander, as well as 9 caliber cruise missiles have been used. Also, the Russians used 9 drones, 6 of them supposedly Shahid, of the type Shahid. Ukraine is claiming they intercepted all of them, and we have a video that is being handed around as proof among the pro-Russian channels, as proof that the Patriot batteries have actually been destroyed, like the Russians claimed. And as you can see from this video, this clearly shows that it was a Patriot battery and that was taken out. Like, I have honestly no idea how this is supposed to be any proof of whatsoever, except that there was an explosion on the ground. But nevertheless, this is what being called as proof, while we have CNN reporting here that there's now confirmation that the Patriot battery was actually hit. Now the claims are it wasn't directly hit, it was an intercepted missile that came down and slightly damaged some element of the Patriot battery, and they're currently investigating if it can even be repaired in place. So supposedly minor damage, but we have to say right now that there's no actual proof available whatsoever. We don't have images, we don't have anything. So this, where the propaganda starts and where it ends, we do not know, and that obviously it's not in the interest of the Western world to admit that a Patriot battery can be overcome by Kinzhal is obvious, while it is obvious that it's in their interest to claim that they shoot down every Kinzhal, and from the Russian side it's obvious that they want to claim that the Kinzhal is the monstrous super weapon as they try to sell it to, while it's more likely just a regular ballistic missile that is just air started and thus should be quite within the capabilities of the Patriot to intercept. So as of now, we need to be somewhat hesitant in what we believe, because as said, we have no proof whatsoever, no image proof. If we had an image of an actual starter or a command vehicle or anything with slight damage, then we could show something. But as of now, at least me personally, I have not found anything whatsoever. There's also reports that the SBU, the Ukrainian intelligence agency, has arrested 6 bloggers, as they call them, who have revealed the positions of the air defense systems with photos and videos. This is illegal in Ukraine for over a year, as far as I remember, and is actually threatened with 8 years in prison. In the beginning of the war, obviously, we're in the 21st century. Everyone has a cell phone, so everyone started taking pictures, taking photos, and there was a famous case of a Russian strike on a shopping center that which was supposedly some kind of war crime, until it came out that somebody had posted pictures of Ukrainian BM-21 Grad rocket launchers that were parked under the building, so the Russians took it out. Obviously, OSINT working with pictures on social media is not just possible in the Western realm, so the Russians clearly scan the social media, the available pictures on social media, to find out, to identify positions, to identify military targets, and especially once there are several videos, several pictures from different angles showing, for instance, the starts of air defense systems, it can be triangulated with some effort, and thus the position of the of the air defense system can be identified, and then it can be attacked. So this should have been known by them. It's illegal, and yeah, 6 of them were arrested. NTV, the German private news channel, claimed that later, I have not seen the videos actually, but the SBU later said, forced them to make public videos where they admitted their guilt and said they were sorry. So you can hope that maybe this prevents them from going to prison for some stupidity. But then again, it's war, and Ukraine revealed those laws a while ago, and nobody's really forced to take a picture and identify defensive positions. So I don't know. I'm generally in favor of free speech and individual freedom, but in war, to accept that you can't just take a picture and a video of everything and publish it is at least somewhat understandable from my point of view. Regardless of this, we can go back to the developments along the front line. We have actually a Russian success in the front north of the Seversky Donetsk. We now have confirmation that Masyutivka has been captured. That tiny town here is now in Russian hands. The Russians are continuing to push in the direction of Snikivka. No confirmation of successes here. Also fighting at Novoselivske. Russian attacks there. There were some claims that Kuzemivka had been evacuated and taken by the Ukrainians, but there's no proof whatsoever of this apart from one article in Riba, which has not been confirmed. So probably the front line is more or less stable here, and the Russians keep attacking. There's also reports about continuous Russian attacks around Crimea. So the Russians are also attacking here. And we have reports from the Ukrainian side and from independent Belarusian side that additional Russian soldiers have arrived in the Crimea-Svatove front line. So roughly along this line here, there are fresh troops now arriving both from Belarus as well as Ukrainian side is saying that there are fresh recruits arriving, among them prison recruits coming to this front line here to reinforce the Russian position. South of the Seversky Donetsk, there were further attacks on Bilohorivka. No confirmation of successes whatsoever. In Bakhmut itself, while the fighting around Bakhmut in the north seems to not lead to any further successes as of now, as of what we can more or less see here on the map. I do not have any confirmation of additional Ukrainian advances north of Bakhmut. The Russians themselves advance within Bakhmut. Here in the northwestern parts towards Khomove, they are continuously creeping forward, and there are expectations that it is a matter of time until the connection between Bakhmut and Khomove is cut. So the expectations are the Russians are about to reach more or less this line to cut Khomove from the city itself. And in the city itself, they have penetrated deep into the so-called citadel using, as I said in the last days, yesterday's situation picture, they were mostly using pretty standard tactics, which still kind of surprised the Ukrainians from, at least according to reports. They were using tunnels made for maintenance, for heating and things like this to get from house to house and avoid being on the surface, and thus being able to penetrate into Ukrainian positions while surprising the Ukrainian defenders. They have penetrated deep into the citadel, but at least according to the reports, have not reached the end of it as of yet. Further south, we have no actual confirmations of additional Ukrainian successes, but I found a video here on a channel that supposedly is from Prigozhin, who says that, as you can see here, I hope you can see it, that including I fought of the enemy, which have been lost to date. So the I fought off in areas, including Klishivka, which has been lost to date. So I'm not completely sure how well the translation is here, but there are some claims, we see it here by the side, that Russian forces have lost control over Klishivka. This is the only point I find it. I found from Ukrainian sources that they are 3 kilometers still away from Klishivka. So whether Klishivka has fallen or not, I can definitely not confirm as of now. This might be, he might just say around Klishivka, mentioning Klishivka, and the town itself has not been lost, because obviously positions here have been lost that have been captured by Wagner in the past. So I said, right now we don't know. The big advances that are regularly being reported over the last few days have not materialized. The Ukrainians have had some local tactical successes, but this is neither the beginning of the massive counteroffensive, nor did they crush the Russians and sweep them aside. We need to simply stick to the facts, which are that the successes were in existence, but they were tactical, nothing more. Further south around Avdiivka, the fighting is also continuing, and there we have a lot of claims by the Russians to have been successful. Krasnohorivka, there are claims that they've reached the road here. No proof whatsoever from my side. I can't find anything. They claim they advanced further from Kruta Balka into Avdiivka. I'm not able to confirm here. From Opitne, they claim to basically are about to reach Avdiivka itself. Again, claim that is completely unsubstantiated. I have no proof whatsoever that they actually advanced further from Opitne in the direction of Avdiivka. In Pervomaiske, they also claim successes. Same story here. No proof of their success. In Marinka, though, we have small proof of success. They have achieved marginal successes in Marinka, and that's already it from the Eastern Front. So mostly static again, except for Bakhmut, and tiny successes by each side in some smaller points. When it comes to the southern area, we have an interesting news from the Ukrainians. They are saying right now there are 152,000 Russian troops in the south, including Zaporizhzhia and Kherson, defending more or less. I'm not completely sure if they include the southern area of Donetsk, which obviously starts here, but at least in this area, they claim to face 152,000 Russians. The Russians are claiming they attacked close to Mali Sherbaki, and had small successes. Again, no, I'm not able to prove that they have advanced here at this point. And we have continued reports about Ukrainian attacks on Russian logistics, troop concentrations, and air defense systems, which are continuously attacked and being taken out along the southern front line. Likely, at least, we would expect this to be in preparation and in softening the enemy for a coming offensive, basically shaping the battlefield in preparation for it. When we can talk to summarize the developments along the whole front line, we can say that the situation is more or less stable for both sides. We have reports, though, that the Russians have sent reinforcements to both flanks of Bakhmut. The Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Malyar said additional VDV units have arrived, and at least 4 new battalions have taken position at the flanks of Bakhmut, according to Russian mill bloggers. Whether they are all VDV or other units, I cannot confirm as of now. Whether it was intended or not, those local attacks, but they have already achieved one goal. Not only have they secured the lines of communication into Bakhmut and probably allowed the Ukrainians to not just better supply them, but also help a withdrawal if needed in the near future. What they have definitely also achieved is to fix additional Russian troops in place. As said, it's pure speculation whether that was the actual intention by the Ukrainians here to draw in additional Russian troops, but this would be a smart move to predate an own counteroffensive, to draw enemy reinforcements, enemy reserves into a position where you don't actually intend to attack. With Bakhmut being so high priority within the Russian information sphere, it obviously is the right point to draw in additional reinforcements by threatening it, and at least with 4 battalions supposedly it was successful. At the same time, we have rumors, and as of now, it's nothing but rumors, but there are rumors that the Ukrainians are withdrawing units, are evacuating units every time they send in supplies. So we see lightly armored vehicles, MTLBs, MRAPs, things like this, running the gauntlet into Bakhmut, where they bring supplies. And supposedly every time they withdraw, they take troops out of Bakhmut. There are the reports that any excess troops that aren't needed are being taken out. That would indicate that the Ukrainian side has now switched over to basically a delaying tactic, that they don't actually intend to hold the positions any longer. Now it's just to make sure that their withdrawal is as orderly as possible, and for that you obviously still need to slow down the enemy, and it seems that this is in progress. So it would be a big surprise if the rest of Bakhmut wouldn't fall within a few days. At least according to rumors, the Ukrainians are preparing exactly that. And we have an interesting comment here from Riba. It's about the troops in along the Dnipro here, which at the same time gives us an insight about how the situation within the Russian forces is right now. And they are saying that there is a witch hunt happening. Whenever somebody talks about the frontline, he's working for the enemy. If somebody does a video thanking volunteers, he's also an enemy, etc. So basically, they are on the edge there, the Russian troops, suspecting their own the whole time, that they are actually secret agents for Ukraine. And as you can imagine, this is not a sign of strength. This is a sign of high nervousness. It's a sign of mistrust. It's a sign of lack of self-confidence. If you think the enemy is everywhere in your own ranks, you're not expecting to be strong. You're not expecting to repulse any attack. And that should be a massively good sign for the Ukrainian side, because it's an indication for the cohesion and the morale of the Russian troops they are facing along the front line here in Dnipro, but it's probably symptomatic for other parts of the front as well. It's fairly unlikely that only the troops here are demoralized and mistrust each other, whereas in everywhere else, everything's perfect. Ukraine is saying that the Russians are sending a ship with 8 caliber into the Azov Sea. They mention 8 caliber to like the cruise missile, like it is meant to be used here for the starts of cruise missiles. While that is possible, it seems actually fairly unlikely, but it allows us to identify it. And it's probably a Admiral Grigorovich class, because 3 of them are in the Black Sea Fleet, and they have 8 starters for caliber. The interesting part is, why would that ship being sent there if not for caliber starts? The easy solution is the Kerch Bridge. With now the Ukrainians having Storm Shadow, which can theoretically attack the Kerch Bridge and should more or less be strong enough to do so, the Kerch Bridge is in serious danger. And to add additional air defense items, air defense possibilities, additional sensors, meaning radars in the vicinity, makes perfect sense, especially as, for instance, a Storm Shadow might be reduced visibility, but from the side, it has a much higher profile to be identified than from the front. So theoretically, one of those frigates being here could identify the Storm Shadow flying down here, because it's on the flank. At the same time, it is fairly modern, so not only are its sensors good, it's also that it has a 100mm cannon here in the front, which can shoot air defense ammunition. It has 2 CVIS, which we see one of them is here, so close-in weapon systems that are able to shoot down fast-moving objects fairly close to them. It also has 24 vertical launch cells for Buk air defense missiles and 8 Iglas on board. So while it's not a true air defense ship, it will definitely add to the air defense and sensor capability of the Russians to protect the Kerch Bridge. And I think we should take this as a sign that they take it serious, why the delivery of the Storm Shadow missiles. And we have a video here. This is from Russian volunteers that are basically declaring war to the Russian volunteer corps that are declaring war to Putin and its government. They want to start fighting against Putin's bloody regime, as they are saying. Basically, Russian partisans, they are willing to fight. Now, obviously, we have no idea how much of this we should take serious. I've mentioned in the past that some signs indicate that there is an organized resistance within Russia, or at least organized Ukrainian agents. This might be one of the parts. The big drone attacks, for instance, are an example. And should those shutdowns have been done with manpads, that would be another one. But here we see a total number of 5 people claiming to be that. Maybe that's all of them. Maybe the video was actually taken inside of Ukraine and not inside of Russia. Obviously, this has a serious possibility of just being some kind of publicity stunt, of being some kind of information operation. We also see all of them with masks. So no idea, but at least some claims that there's a partisan movement developing. And while it might be developing, we have no idea how strong it actually is outside of their own claims. When it comes to Prigozhin again, we had the reports that supposedly he was willing to hand over informations about Russian positions to the Ukrainians in exchange for the Ukrainians giving up Bakhmut, which would make perfect sense to show him as the masterful military leader who is able to take Bakhmut while the Russians achieve nothing else. That he would commit treason over this would at least theoretically make sense. He was asked about that in an interview, and he basically admitted it in a way, obviously, where I have to interpret. He said exchanges with the enemy are normal in any war. So if he talks to the enemy, that's nothing special. And positions of troops are no secret in times of massive satellite use anymore. So basically, if I had handed over information data, it would not have been such a horrible thing, because they would have known anywhere that they're there. But of course, the documents those accusations are based on are all falsified, so he has not done it. Now, if he hasn't done it, why does he say that exchanges with the enemy are normal? And why has he said that the troop positions would be known anyways? That doesn't make too much sense, unless, of course, you think that he might prepare for the fact that the information are taken serious by some. So he better says that even if I had done it, it wouldn't have been bad. And when it comes to international support, we have news from the British. They are handing over hundreds of suicide drones with twice the range of the HIMARS. So apparently, according to the Telegraph, the British developed over the last few months a new type of suicide drone in secrecy to aid Ukraine specifically. Probably, that's my assertion, probably inspired by the Shahid drones, which are fairly easy and cheap to produce. So why the hell wouldn't our side, in quotation mark, do the same as well? The range that is being said is at 125 miles or 200 kilometers, so a sizable range that would allow the Ukrainians to attack additional targets. And even if they are like the Shahid, fairly easy to intercept, they would force the Russians to expend aircraft, anti-aircraft munitions, and fix Russian air defense systems in place. And we have reports that Hunsolt is going to give Ukraine an additional 6 TRML-4D AESA radar systems. They are made for the Iris TSLM. Ukraine is receiving 6 additional ones that have been ordered by now. Also, Turkish cluster munitions have appeared inside of Ukraine. So Turkey has apparently handed over cluster munitions. Cluster munition is obviously seen critical by observers, as the problem isn't the munition itself, which is highly effective against targets, dispersed targets, or unprotected targets, but the real issue with cluster munition is that usually it has a fairly high dud rate, and that dud rate leads to basically mining an area. That's the reason why many countries, especially those who don't really expect to fight serious wars anymore, have given up on the usage of cluster munitions. But it doesn't change the effectiveness, and whether the Ukrainians decide to take the risk of mining their own territory in defense of an invader is obviously, or should obviously, be their choice. They are not doing it in another country. So reports here that Turkish ammunition has appeared. Whether Turkey itself delivered it or not is obviously not completely clear, whether it went over a middleman, but at least they have arrived in Ukrainian hands. And it's not everything. Ukraine also received 152 millimeter artillery of the type M1981 from Romania. As far as I see it, it's a fairly antiquated system, not the highest efficiency, not the biggest range, but it's additional artillery that obviously everything helps in this regard. So it's still going to be of some use. And as you can see, the stream technician tries to blackmail me again to give him food. And everyone owning a cat can probably relate to that, and he has realized that me sitting here looking into the monitor, it seems to be a good way to just be in front of the monitor to stop me from concentrating, to stop me from seeing my script, so he can get food out of me to make him stop doing that. But this time it's not going to work, because we are about to end this here, the situation report. I hope it was interesting for you. If so, then please hit the like button. Leave a comment for the algorithm. What do you think about Bakhmut? How long will they keep going? How long will Ukraine be able to continue? And when do you think the Ukrainian counteroffensive will actually start? And if you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos like this and others. It would be nice to see you here again. This channel is only possible because of the support from viewers like you. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. Thank you very much to everyone who has already done it. And that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.